Welcome back to The Company Move, where we explore what life outside the film and television industry could look like by talking to folks who have made the leap. I'm your host, Rennie Pollack, a union camera assistant living and working in Chicago, Illinois. I'll be learning and growing along with you. It's season 2, y'all. Company's on the move. Yeah, I said I'm moving on. Musician and author Cliff Beach has been performing live for more than 20 years. His single Confident was featured on Spotify All Funked Up and Funk Drive playlists with over 1 million plus streams. He is the host of the Deeper Grooves podcast and Deeper Grooves on 88.5 FM in Los Angeles. Beach is the author of Side Hustle and Flow, which chronicles his musical journey while still working a day job. He has written previously for Beauty Tap, Pepperdine, and Rockstar Life. He is the winner of the John Lennon Songwriting Contest Grand Prize, 3 World Songwriting Awards, 5 Global Music Awards, a California Music Video and Film Award, an Elite Music Award, and nominated for 4 LA Music Awards, 1 Hollywood Music and Media Award, and 1 Independent Music Award, and more. His music has recently been featured on the CW, HBO Max, and in a BMW commercial. He was nominated for a World Entertainment Award for his audiobook Side Hustle and Flow, and has just released a follow-up audiobook Side Hustle and Flow Shape Up. This conversation was so fun. Cliff has been a friend for over 10 years. He's such a supporter. He gave us our theme song. I just asked if maybe we could buy or pay for a song. He's like, no, you could just have it. He's just an amazing, spirited human. This conversation was a party. I hope you listen to his audiobook, Side Hustle and Flow Shape Up. I hope you go out and download his book, Side Hustle and Flow, or buy a physical copy. And then listen to him on Spotify. He is a party. If you're in LA, go see him live. You will never be disappointed. It is so fun. I'm so excited to bring this conversation to you. Welcome to Company Move, Cliff Beach.
Thank you for having me. Excited.
Our audience might recognize your voice or your name, especially because Cliff sings and wrote and composed the song that is our theme song. Thank you for that. It's really fun and made our podcast feel real. So I really appreciate you giving us your dulcet tones.
Awesome. Happy to do it. And I'm glad the podcast is going well.
So Cliff, you are a multi-hyphenate. You wear many hats. You wear many pants. You wear many shoes. And I especially am having you on today because you wrote a book called Side Hustle and Flow. And I think a lot of our audience members who maybe are in the film industry, because the film industry has slowed down so much, they want to figure out what the hell to do with their lives. And your book gives a really good guide to that plan. So can you, first of all, just tell me a little bit about yourself and then how you came to write the book?
Sure. Well, I'm originally from Washington, D.C., so an East Coaster, but I've been on the West Coast probably half my life now, over 20 years in Los Angeles, working on music and creative projects. And most of the time, I have had 2 parallel tracks of working on music and passion projects, which can be feast or famine, like many things in the arts, and then also working full-time in corporate America. So I started off in LA and worked at Skechers corporate, and then last, I think, was at L'Oreal Group for a number of years. But now I'm primarily in digital marketing for a small startup. But yeah, ideally, just having those parallel tracks. How do you kind of make money and have, different streams of income and are able to support yourself and wear those many hats, but then also through goal setting and time management, be able to do your passion projects? Because I think that people really do need passion and purpose and drive in their life and things that spark joy, because it creates happiness, and happiness makes, happier people and a happier world. So I think sometimes, at least for me, as a musician, people had this kind of all or nothing approach, and they're like, well, if you don't do it full time, you're not really a musician. But there's like such a small group of 1% of 1% that are able to do that at a level where you can sustain yourself, indefinitely. Right. And so it was just kind of more practical and pragmatic approach. Also, just as a solopreneur and owning your own businesses as an artist, you really have to know marketing and social media and the ownership and the kind of that push over the last 20, 30 years is on you. And so you can get kind of screwed over if you don't know the business in Los Angeles and other places, but also just it's just kind of a necessary evil. And so it was just giving people options. It's giving them, whether you do it 30 minutes a day or every day or whatever, just, it's better to have 30 minutes, or some time carved out in a week than no time at all.
You mentioned solopreneur.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes up in your book. Can you explain what that means?
Yeah, so solopreneur is like a business of one. So I use that term a lot because basically I went to college at Berklee College of Music. I studied music business management, and then I went back to school to get my master's. I had my MBA from Pepperdine in Malibu. And a lot of artists, whether you're a musician or you work in film or TV or podcasting, whatever it is, if you're just kind of you as the art and the commodity and you're selling that in the marketplace, you're a business. And so you really have to think of yourself as a solopreneur, an entrepreneur, because whether you say I'm a business or not, you are. Like, that's the only way that you can get out there and monetize your gifts and your talent. And so the people who are thinking and wearing that business hat are going to have an advantage over people who are just purely like coming from the artist mind and artist mindset. It's a little bit different, but ideally they should be giving, artists, even if you're, let's say, a barber or a makeup artist, and I work with a lot of those, you're a business, you're a mobile business, and you're going on set or you're going to different places to apply your skills and getting paid for that. And so it is truly a business, even if you at some point just own a job, which is what solopreneurship is. Eventually, there are ways to kind of, depending on what the business is, automate it, scale it, add to your team accordingly. So you just kind of have to think, you're you Inc. essentially, like I am my little mid business, and then you kind of can just think about it differently and how you set it up.
Yeah, when I got to that part of the book, I was like, oh my God, I've never thought of it that way. You talk about the organizational structure of you, and it's like there's the financial aspect, there's the HR, there's the marketing, there is the sales, like the R&D. Like, if you think of yourself as an organization, as a business, and work on the parts that are maybe a little weaker, or maybe you need to reach out to someone who is stronger in those areas. So can you talk a little bit about, because you bring up a lot in the book that you didn't do this on your own.
No. I mean, I tell people all the time that there is no self-made, person who birthed you, who raised you, who mentored you, who gave you your first opportunities, who purchased your product. But yeah, I separated it out into different departments. I mean, our bodies, our systems, so everything is kind of built on building a team and an ecosystem, and teamwork makes the dream work. And even if you're a person of one, there's times where it's going to be tax time. You're the accountant, for that day and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's not easy. It's not always that like every aspect you're going to be great at or it's going to be your wheelhouse, but definitely still knowing a little bit about it when you do start to create this team, what you're looking for, what your strengths are, where your weaknesses and deficits are. And even like with people just in their personal lives, they have this wheel of life, so you do have, your relationships and your family and your romantic relationships and your finances and your personal aspirations and, things that really excite you and get you out of bed and that type of thing. And so, yeah, we are compartmentalized and split into different departments. And, a lot of people will say that I want a work-life balance. And I tell people now,
I'm screaming that.
Yeah, right? But I tell people now, it's not actually work-life balance, it's work-life integration. It's how these things fit together and work together in concert And, you know, it's like having a diverse portfolio where some things are going to go up and some things are going to go down, but it kind of balances out in that way. So it is a balance, but a little bit different than how people think of it. And I think it's just the mindset and the framing of it. And there really is no right or wrong way. I tell people all the time, like, you just ask questions, self-reflection questions, and then from there, you know, like science, you have a hypothesis and you think it's going to work a certain way, and then you run the sequence, and then you look at the data and you see how it goes, and you say, okay, this is working well, this isn't working well, this is kind of the changes and things I want to adjust. So I kind of use that approach. It's a lot of trial and error, and even if I try to go back and do everything I've done, it wouldn't line up exactly the same, you know, 20
Right.
years later, because it's always a little bit different. But I think just get out there, try a lot of stuff, and you're gonna fail, you're gonna suck. There are gonna be some better days than others, as you
Right.
know, and sometimes you have to fake it till you make it, or grit and bear it, and but I think you owe it to yourself, because I think the hardest thing and what I champion the most as the guinea pig for a lot of things is that if you don't do it, you know, then it's not going to get done. And what I mean by that is like that creative project, that song, that idea, that book, it's just not going to it's not going to come to fruition, because it's what you need to do. And especially when I explain now about project management, like how people set up, you know, what they do. There's this kind of
Hmm.
theory of the 4Ds. There are things that you do, there are things that you delegate, there are things that you defer until later, and there are things that you delete. And I actually do that in reverse. So I try to have like an 80,
Delete stuff
yeah.
first.
Well, yeah, I try to delete things. I'm like, yeah, this is not a me thing. I don't need to
Mm.
insert myself here. And then go backwards and say, this is a later thing. Let's defer that. And then, yeah, delegate to my team and who I can, you know, about 80% to really kind of focus on that 20% that I can do. And then I prioritize from there. Because if it's not a cliff needed project, it's not a running needed project, meaning that, um, you know, if I'm going to go record that podcast, that's a me thing. Like, nobody can do that but me. So I want to focus my time
Hmm.
on that. If it's something like, you know, I have a maid that comes, for example, and cleans my apartment, I could do that for hours. But those hours that I'm out while she's doing that, I can go make money or do other things. So it's not like you always can do that. Not everybody has the same amount of autonomy. Not everybody has the same level of access or money and things like that. So it's kind of at any budget, you can figure out what works for you. But essentially, like, as you start to
Right.
grow, there's things that you need to get off of your plate, so you know what the best you time is being spent on.
Yeah, I love you have a quote from Zig Ziglar in the book that says, "You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great." And I love that. I think it's really important. Um, and you kind of walk everybody throughout the book, asking yourself questions to help you start, to help you. Can you just kind of walk me through the process of um, starting to ask yourself these questions and putting things into action?
Oh yeah, well, I love Zig Ziglar. I've listened to him for so many years, and he passed away now. But I did have the
Mm.
pleasure of interviewing his son, Tom Ziglar, and going to see his famous water pump in Plano, Texas. So it was great when I was starting to just think about writing, um, asking those questions: who can I talk to, and will they speak to me? So, you know, putting yourself out there, doing those informational interviews, I think is great. But it's true. It's true, because you're gonna suck to get to success, whatever that is. Most people aren't great when they first start, and it's weird
Yeah.
and it's clunky and it's awkward and it's uncomfortable. But all that growth happens outside of your comfort zone. And the crazy thing is that when you study other philosophies in other areas, so for example, when you study the blue zone and you study places like Okinawa, Japan, where they have, you know, the most octogenarians, people who have lived over 100 in a very small island.
Yeah.
You know, I'm always thinking about how I can not only live or not only survive, but thrive and live your best life. And I was always curious, pretty much my whole life, of why does one person's life look amazing and another person's so tragic? Country song, even though they came from the same kind of humble beginnings and background, like what in a person kind of makes the difference. And so, yeah, you look at a person like Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan was cut from his basketball team, in high school because he
Hmm.
wasn't the greatest Michael Jordan at the time, but he worked at it every day.
You can
They go
email
out and
us
they
at
shoot those 400
companymovepod at
baskets, and the next
gmail.com.
day they get out and shoot another 400 baskets, and they do that their entire career because they know that's what it takes. That's what it takes to be the best. And
Right.
you can't phone it in. You look at someone like a Zig Ziglar, he practiced his speeches 30, 40, 50 years. He didn't just phone it in because he's like, well, now
Right.
I'm Zig and people know me, because he knew the level of work, whether it's doing a Toastmasters or Dale Carnegie program. And that's what I love about people like Warren Buffett. He's made an obscene amount of money in the stock market. And he says public speaking is the skill that will take you through 50 years. It's the only diploma that I have on the wall, not from a college, just learning how to public speak, learning how to effectively communicate. And so asking those questions, going back to Japan, they have this theory of ikigai, which means
Mm.
reason for living. And basically they have four core questions that people who have lived over 100 have asked their whole lives to live their best lives. And it's, what are you good at? What does the world need from me? What do I like to do? And what can I make money from? And just having a list of questions like that just ask you, like, sometimes, when it comes to mental health and things like that, like, you go through life for so long, and besides the therapist, like, no one ever comes by and says, are you happy? Are you,
Mm.
are you content? Like people like Marie Kondo, they taught people how to tidy up and clean their house. I had never heard someone say, grab this item and does this spark joy? Do you need this thing in your life? Because if it's not serving you, if it's not loving you back, let it go. But we don't
Right.
ever ask those questions because we're kind of taught to coast. I think it has something to do with like how we're educated. I think like the education system was meant to make a bunch of Dilberts, like people who can be mind controlled because they don't think for
Worker
themselves.
bees.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so that's kind
Yeah.
of, you have to break out of that. It's like, you have to unplug from the matrix and be like, no, I need to be asking myself, is this, I'm on a diet. Is this food helping me move towards that goal or not? It's not about, this is the right thing or not. It's about choices, but it's about informed choices. And by asking those questions, then you get to become informed.
Yeah, I really like the how can you help the world or what does the world need from me? Because I think a lot of times we don't think that just, one person can affect change. And you give a couple examples of like, business at like Toastmasters. You talk about Harriet Tubman, like she just wanted to be free, but she helped a bunch of other people be free. So, um, and then you talk about Spanx as well, like, just thinking about what is it that you need for yourself, and if you're working on that thing, can that help other people?
Oh yeah. I mean, it always does. You look at people like the Wright brothers, they made a miracle of an airplane, and they had no money and no government backing, and they were just bicycle enthusiasts. But they had that childlike curiosity. They had a little airplane that their dad bought them as a kid. And they said, why not? Why can't that be real? Why can't that be a thing?
Ah,
You had people like Steve Jobs who were like, why can't we have a computer that matches my personality? Why can't it have a color? That was like a novel idea in the 90s
yeah.
when they brought him back after kicking him out of his own company and begging him to come back after he started Pixar. He said, you know what? We don't have any money, but you know what I don't like? I don't like that these are all gray and beige. They're ugly. We're going to change the colors and make them blue and pink. And no one had thought that. And that was crazy that they made so much money. People were like, I just want an orange iMac now because that represents me as a person. Everyone
I
thought that it,
remember those.
right?
Those those were great. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, you don't need to have, the best ideas. They can be pulled from other places. Intamins created their little viewing window for their desserts that made them a household name because they took that from the meat industry. People were like, I don't want to have bad meat. I want to see it in plastic first. And so they started showing people what their cakes look like first, and they made billions of dollars. So I think it's just, yeah, what do people need from you? Everyone has that X factor, just like their DNA, just like a fingerprint. They're your little snowflakes. And we need that thing from you, whether it's large scale or big scale. It doesn't matter. You look at a person like Van Gogh. Van Gogh didn't sell any paintings, one in his lifetime. Died crazy from the paint. And then, he's revered around the world. Not everybody's going to get you at the time, but if someone said, "Oh, don't do that," we wouldn't have that. Grandma Moses started painting in her 80s. She became very successful by 100. They said if she started in her 20s when she wanted to, she would have been the most famous female painter of all time. But someone told her, "You need to go work on the farm. You need to get married." So she didn't. And that's why you need, but then at 80, she's like, "I have arthritis. I can't work on the farm anymore. I want to paint now." And she did. And at least in the last 20 years, we got the best of her that we wouldn't have gotten at all if she didn't say, "You know what? I'm not too old at 80. I'm taking a class. I'm getting the paints. I'm making it happen." And so that's why I say any age, anytime, you can transcend genes, you can transcend ethnicity, backgrounds. It doesn't matter. It's like start. If you didn't start 20 years ago, start today. But the thing is, we still need it from you. And if you're here, you owe it to yourself, but then you owe it to the world. We want that gift. And if you share it with us, it could be novel. J.K. Rowling writing Harry Potter, no one wanted to hear from her. A lot of publishers said no. Dr. Seuss had a lot of no's before 30 publishers before he got his book to teach the whole world how to read. Chicken Soup for the Soul sold billions of copies and hundreds of publishers didn't want them. So again, it's like people still have to put those dreams out there. They have to put those ideas out there. And if we don't have people that think and dream big and are willing and daring to try, then we don't get that. And there's definitely something that can only come from me and only come from you. And it's either we do it and it's out there, or we die and the graveyard is rich with what could have, should have, would have been, but didn't because you didn't do it.
Right. Yeah, I think that's really important too. Like, and I think a lot of times you spoke on it before of like, you're not going to be good at something right away. And I think a lot of times the older we get, the harder it is to learn new skills or to want to keep moving forward if you're not really great at something right away. I know I personally get really frustrated and discouraged if I'm not picking something up quick enough. And so also, having the drive, you say, to complete what you start. Like it's really important to, I mean, also know if you're not good at something, you don't like it. If it's not enjoyable, don't keep going. But that it's really important to keep going if you enjoy what you're doing. It's okay that you're not great at it to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, you won't be, and I think that's the thing. And you have to have grace and relax into certain things. But I think that's why when I'm mentoring and working with kids, or even just watching babies and stuff like that, it's like the way we come into the world is the way we should carry through life.
Yeah.
When you're learning how to walk, you fall a bunch of times, but you're never thinking like, "Well, that's just not for me. I'll just fall the
Never
rest of
gonna
my
walk.
life." Yeah. And so when you learn to talk, same thing. It's like you learn language so quickly because you immerse yourself with people who speak. You learn because you have those mentors. Everyone talking, you can learn from, and you start to emulate until you figure out what that is for you. And you're not great at any of that in the beginning, but you just clunkily get through it. But you're never thinking that you can. And when you don't know, then you do.
Yeah, I think I have to think about that a lot of times when I'm practicing Spanish, of like, this is a different language than what I was raised learning. And it's okay that I'm not perfect at it and I still have lots to learn, but I'm going to keep going. Like, it's not easy. And then I think that, the people who do speak Spanish that are receiving my words are at least thankful that I'm trying.
Yeah.
So I have to like stop making I get a little bit like have a little bit of shame sometimes when I'm not getting the thing across that I need to get across. And it's like, I'm trying. And I can also work on that and get better with practice.
Yeah, it's funny. But yeah, they say with language and stuff like that, it's just about the full immersion, So if you go live in a Spanish speaking country or go to a Spanish part of town, you have to use it more often. Then you'll pick it up differently. It's and the gamification of it, the more fun it is. If you're learning how to salsa dance or whatever, then you're doing it with people that you like being around, then you'll move a lot faster than doing it alone or in a kind of a sterile environment of recordings and stuff like that. Not that you can't learn that way, but it's like we don't learn to talk by learning language by listening to tapes or anything. I mean, you do, I guess. But it's like,
but you have to put it into practice. Like, I can't just do Duolingo every day and expect to go have a full-on conversation and understand what's coming back at me. Like, you just, You have to diversify the way that you learn.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I remember when I lived in France and I had all these French students, they were like, when we learn English, like every year they have the same two sentences. Like, Sarah's in the kitchen and Brian's in the bathroom. They're like, Brian's been in the bathroom for 14 years. Like, what is
Yeah.
happening with him? What did he eat?
Brian, why are you always in the bathroom? Um, I want to ask you a it's not a personal question, but I think that a lot of folks that I've talked to that work in the film industry who are thinking about like, well, if work doesn't come back the way that it does, like, do I go back to school? Like what? And a lot of people that I have already interviewed that went back to school had a partner that could help support them while they were in school, but you went back and got your MBA solo. So I kind of want to hear your story of like, how did you like, what were the challenges of that? How did you manage to get your MBA while still having to support yourself?
Oh, that's a good question. So yeah, I mean, I full transparency, I had scholarships and I took some loans out and stuff like that. And so that was kind of just, what you did. It was like, oh, whatever. They don't tell you when you take out loans, you mortgage your future and you're paying
Right.
that forever. But, in the long run, you do make more by having those degrees and it gives you access and options. So, you were able to essentially pay it off in the same way that people pay off houses and other stuff. But I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. When I'm telling people now, it's like there are scholarships that just don't get collected. So things like FastWeb and stuff. Try to get grants and loans. Try to go work for a place. I know a lot of people at Pepperdine that had executive MBAs and they actually worked for the school and were able to get
Mm,
one or two classes for free. So there's many ways
nice.
to work that path. So I would do it a little bit differently than when I did it. But I was very headstrong at the time and just like, I'm doing this and I don't care. Like I just want to get it done. And I think for me it helped because it helped me be taken seriously in other places. Sometimes when people see you as a musician, they think you're a flake and they think that you don't have
Mm,
that kind of brain. Um and a lot of us do. A lot of creatives are great in business and other ventures because we have a creative way of problem solving. We have a creative way of thinking and you
right.
can bring that creativity into kind of boring, unsexy industries. And so I think there's no right or wrong way. I think you can work it, if you can go only part time and you're working full time. I think there is a way to do that. And if I was working, I would have figured out the time management because they do have morning and evening classes. And I did that in undergrad too, where I would like go to school at 7 a.m. and then I would work 9 to 5 and then go back from 6 to 10. And I had that
Mm.
actually weirdly in high school as well. I was just a crazy kid and I graduated
You
2 years
are a
early.
workaholic.
I am. It's part anxiety and it's part
Did you
just,
say you graduated 2 years early from high school?
yeah, I graduated high school at 16 and I graduated undergrad at 19 and I came to LA.
Cliff Beach. You
Yeah.
are a very smart man. Um, can you tell me what are all of your side hustles right now? Or just like what are all of the things that you have your hands in right now?
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I mean, so many things. Obviously, having my 9 piece funk band. So we have released, gosh, since
If
2013, we released
if
like,
you're in LA, go see Cliff
oh,
play.
I would love
It
that.
is a part and I love it. I love it every time. And I miss it. I miss
Oh,
all you guys.
I know. We miss you too. Yeah. So having the band, in 2013, I said I want to make 10 albums in 10 years. So we did that by 2022, and multiple albums are now out in 2025. So we're probably by the end of this year, I think up to with the audiobooks, 15 projects that are out streaming. So yeah, that's the endeavor of just making and creating projects and getting them out there. From that, having my own record company, so California Soul Music, as my own imprint. I work with other labels as well, so I'm on Color Red for the last album out of Denver. But we structure those kind of deals depending on what we want to do, and then my music is all controlled from the writing side with my publishing company, Please and Funky Publishing, which is also the publisher of my latest audiobook, Shape Up. So yeah, it's just like kind of structuring those deals. I have my music projects all under Cliff Beach Music. So there's like entities and DBAs and things that I have. And then, yeah, I had a foray into television. So I was the house band for Josh Gates Tonight for 2 seasons on HBO Max and Discovery Channel. So that was a lot of fun. And I when I started the book in 2020, so I'm an author of Side Hustle and Flow. That's a side hustle. Outside of that, that created a podcast, Deeper Grooves. We did like 50 interviews with Grammy award winning artists and a bunch of people who just kind of showed us their trajectory and how they kind of had their journey through music. And it's kind of like the Actors Studio, but for music. So 50 of those, and that kind of pushed me into working in radio. So now we're over 200 episodes out of Cal State Northridge, KCSN, the SoCal Sound, having my own our Deeper Grooves radio show. And then, yeah, just like little projects here and there. I'm on the symphony board for Culver City Symphony, which is my local town in Los Angeles, near the Sony Studios. So this little symphony that could, board member for that. I'm a mentor with a bunch of different groups. So I'm a big brother. I have a little who is 16 in the Crenshaw area who I've been helping over the last 2 years. I volunteer with kids. I did a huge global youth summit with Tony Robbins in San Diego. I'm getting ready to do some work with some kids in Kenya. And then
Are you going to Kenya?
Yeah, right now we're set up to go in April to do a youth summit over there. And it's been a 30-year deferred dream. I was supposed to go to Kenya when I was 12 years old, but I was too scared. And so 30 years later, I'm 42. I'm finally getting to go and help. And I love helping. So I've been trying to give back as much as I can. I also, at Saddleback Church, I volunteer with middle school and high school boys because there's a book that says it is better to build boys than mend men. Believe me, I came from a lot of brokenness in life and a lot of broken men. And so if you can help boys be better and oh my gosh, what do they call this thing? Ejaculate responsibly. If you can teach them. Yeah. Yeah, it's up to all of us.
I knew Cliff was gonna say something.
Yeah, because it's like you just can't spread your ideas in that way with no support. You know, we need you.
No, that's so important. That's such important work right now. I think a lot of times we spend a lot of time telling girls to be careful, but we don't spend time telling boys how to behave and and how to respect themselves and other people. So I love that you're doing that work.
Yeah, well, it takes two to tango, but it's not that people can't. It's that people haven't been taught. They haven't had those teachable moments. They haven't been called for a higher purpose, and that we respect ourselves. And part of that respect is respecting others and respecting our commitments. You know, this is something that you have done, and we will rally and support you. But it's up to you to do this because that kid's gonna need you, and I know what that's like. I know what that's like to have a single parent and to kind of have questions that go unanswered, and there's a lot of restoration and a lot of forgiveness and things that you learn along the way. And I'm happy, you know, to come from a very unconventional thing. But I think, you know, as a person who comes from that, you know, as all the tough parts of life that you go through are there for a reason. Those problems help you find solutions, and who you become is really important. But ideally, the person who can speak to it the most is the person who's been through that. That, you know, the Harriet Tubmans of the world can come back and explain how to get to freedom because I know the way, because I've been there. I can't tell you about it in theory, but I've never been. I never made it to Canada. I didn't follow the drinking gore. So yeah, there's ways that, you know, they're part of our things of amplifying our message and getting out there. Is like, we can't just open the doors, get through it, and then slam it behind us. We have to keep it open and then show people that the way. And so, yeah, as painful as it is, you know, God will never waste the hurt, and the hurt becomes a hurdle to get over, and then becomes your hot message.
Your hot message. Okay, wait, are you still teaching? You were a vocal coach for a while. You were my vocal coach for a while.
Oh, yes.
I still have all the recordings.
Yeah. I'm not vocal coaching as much, just because, personally for me, I just like working with people who really, you know, will stick with it, and it takes a lot of work. So I just give people kind of free advice at this point. I don't have like structured lessons, but I've been working more into life coaching more as of late and mentoring different people. I've had people that I've been mentoring in different businesses and industries, over the last 5, 10, 15 years because um, they need it. They need it, and also it's there's so many facets and aspects of life. So I wouldn't say I wouldn't vocal coach again, but I'm selective of who I would coach. But I like the idea of coaching versus teaching. I don't think you can teach. I think you can show, and people can decide how they want to use that information and show up, but they have to do the work. And I think that was the hardship. When I work with kids that take lessons and they're like, oh, I don't want to be here. My parents want me to be here and that kind of thing. I like to work with people when they're past that point, when they're like, no, I want this for myself. Because then they're like, okay, you're ready to put in like the elbow grease and the hard work. But I still give a lot of free advice because singing or music it's a lifelong instrument and you don't ever know everything. There's so much music that comes out, 300,000 songs drop every week. And so I'm always constantly learning from all the great instrumentalists that I see and people that I come into contact with. But yeah, that's definitely a side hustle that I have for years. I taught for 20 years and I taught famous people's kids and non-famous people's kids and have gone all over the world to China to teach girl groups how to sing and write songs and stuff. So your gifts will make room for you. And I just tell people, when I was 20 years ago, I wanted to be the best singer. And then it's like, yeah, I wanted to become a songwriter and become a pianist and become then, I never thought about owning a record label or a publishing company or doing radio or TV or anything like that. But if you say yes and you learn, every time I say yes, I'm like, I have no clue how to get this done. I don't know how to write a book. I don't know how to string a sentence together. I don't know syntax. I don't know grammar. But it's like, somebody does. And I'll just, I'll figure it out. And everything is figure outable.
Yeah.
If you want to.
Yeah. I mean, I told you, I texted you the other day while I was reading through your book. One of the pieces of advice that you had was like, if you don't know what you're doing, like go to a seminar, like take a step towards what it is that you think that you want. And so I want this podcast to be successful. I want more viewer or listenership. We're not doing video yet. I want more listenership. And I looked up podcasting, like meetup groups or whatever. And I found a convention that's coming next month. So I signed up for that convention and it was just taking a step forward toward seeing if what it is that I want to accomplish is.
That's great. I love that kind of stuff. And it's awesome because, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you got out there, you took the action, you looked it up, you decided, you put the money, you signed up, whatever it is. And yeah, that's the way it's always done. And that's, let me take a class. Let me go talk to someone who knows about it, who has done it. You look at someone like a Tony Robbins, he was mentored by Jim Rohn. Zig Ziglar had a bunch of mentors. Jim Rohn had a mentor, Mr. Schoaf. And so, yeah, everybody's always kind of having someone who shows them the way and learns. But yeah, there's so many meetup groups and Facebook groups and podcasts and books and webinars and series that can kind of teach you whatever you want to know. And I think sometimes the hardship is that we get overwhelmed. So there's so much information that we don't know where to start. But you just start, and you go to it, and then you'll see, oh, that was great. I really learned something great, or that wasn't so great, but I met someone great who pointed me to this other thing. So it's always going to take you down a path. It's just having the openness, like going there and be like, I don't have any expectations. It's going to be what it's going to be, but there's always something. You learn some nugget everywhere. If you're looking for that, you have to sift through it like gold sometimes, but eventually, like you find that nugget. But there's, I heard of a guy who was a dentist and he went to a dental conference. He learned one thing, came back, learned how to use this tool that was like revolutionary. Only 3 people were like in the seminar, and he came back, made millions of dollars, and retired like 2 years later from one conference. So it's like you'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Like one idea can spark a movement or a change. There's so many things, especially like for you being a woman, there's so many women helping other women and so many places to
Yeah.
do that. So like I can't even go. And so I think people owe it to themselves to, use those use those advantages. Use that, you're coming from that vantage point. There are other people like you. There are other people who are like you who will want to help because they know how hard it is. And there's other people who are like you who just want to see other people like you succeed. And so there are lots of avenues and ways to do that. But I'm excited. I'm excited for you, and I hope to recap and see how it goes.
Oh yeah, I'll let you know for sure.
I'm sure it's gonna be fun.
Back to the book just for a second too. Because we just talked about it, the analysis paralysis that can happen from too many options, too many possibilities, and I think it's a gift and a curse. I have that as well. There's so many. I'm moderately good at a lot of things, and it's hard to decide what to move forward with. And one of the suggestions that you have in your book is to write down everything you're good at and then just focus on three things. And I think that is really great advice that could help a lot of folks in the film industry look at what it is that you do as a grip. What is it that you do as set dressing? Like, write down the three things that you're really good at. Maybe it's communication, maybe it's interior design, like writing down those things and then just focusing in on three. Can you talk a little bit about like how you came up with that? Is that something that has helped you? Like, how did you come up with that?
Yeah, well, along the way, I learned that like if you have more than three things, you don't have any. So like you cannot focus on everything, everywhere,
Hmm.
all at once. I love Hollywood. It's a great movie. Congrats to
I
the
love that
winners,
movie so much.
right? Congrats to the Oscar winners for that. But yeah, you can't. You cannot. When I was writing the book, I took a course from Scribe Media, run by Tucker Max, who wrote the New York Times bestseller, I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell. And then they made a terrible movie. But he's okay with it. He's helped people go to write like Tiffany Haddish and David Goggins and a bunch of people. But essentially, he was like, people, they want this meatball Sunday. I love meatballs. I love Sundays. I don't love them together. And so it's like, you're
Right.
trying to mix all these things together. It's like, yeah, you can't. It doesn't work. And the same way, like when you're writing the book, they have this thing called a parking lot where you're making your outline. You're going to have probably more than one book in you. And so to be able to focus on the book you're writing now, you have to have a parking lot. Like, that's a great idea, but that's not today. And so
Oh, that's so smart.
so with those three things, it's like, okay, you figure out really your core competency is what you love to do, what the world needs from you, what you're good at. And then you're like, okay, I want to focus on three because you can really maximize and find synergies between those three that maybe you're not looking at. But once you add four or five, it's just like juggling. Like, you can see someone juggle two or three things at a time pretty good. But, I start tossing 8, 9, 10, 12 balls on there. Well, you're going to start dropping balls. And
Yeah.
that's why it doesn't mean that you can't do 8 things. It just means it's just not an effective use of your time or energy. A lot of times in business, they have this thing, return on investment. I don't even focus on that. I focus on return on effort. Like, is this worth my effort? Is this all the things that I can do? If I can only do 3 things, then that's what I want to focus on. And really from there, if I can only do 1, it's really like Brian Tracy said, eat that frog. If it's the hardest thing, the thing that you have to do, that's the thing that's most important, do that early, do that first. And so, yeah, I try to say, well, if I can only focus on 3 things, these, and of the 3 things, if I can only focus on 1, then this. And then, 1 is great, 2 is gravy, 3 is cake. But either way,
Yeah.
no more than 3. It doesn't have to even be 3, but no more than 3.
That reminds me, my dad used to give me advice when I would stress out about homework and be, up until like 9 or 10 o'clock, still trying to finish my homework. My dad would be like, do the hardest piece first, get that done, and then everything else will be easy. And it wasn't always. It sometimes would take me too long to do the hard piece. I didn't always take his advice, but I do think about that a lot of like, getting the hardest bit completed and then everything else kind of falls into place after that.
Agreed. Yeah, it's momentum. Dave Ramsey, when he's teaching people to get out of debt, they have the debt snowball. It's like you start paying off the smallest ones and then, then applying it to the larger ones. And so you just gain momentum. So, and there are people who are like, no, pay off the biggest one because then it frees up cash to do it the other way. It doesn't matter. It's just the momentum of doing it. Yeah. So it's like, if you have 20 math problems to go through, start one, because one will lead to two to three as a sequence. And, putting it off and delaying it, it's like you might be doing it at 10 because you delayed it since four, because you don't want to do it. And so, you have to stack the deck in a way and that works for you. But yeah, I tell people like analysis paralysis is like going to Cheesecake Factory. Like I hate going there
Yeah.
because they have too many things on the menu. I just want to go to a place that's like I do three things well. Because otherwise,
Amber Ruffin would disagree with you. That's her favorite.
people do love that place. I mean, they make great cheesecake.
I don't think I've ever been there.
Oh, well, the one in the marina on the water, that's the one to go to if you're going to go.
All right. Well, next time I come into town, we're going to the Cheesecake Factory.
All right.
Um, um, I could talk to you for all day. I know you have lots of stuff going on. Is there anything that I didn't ask or didn't cover that you want to, or like any advice you want to give to the listeners right now?
My only major advice, I mean, I know we're talking about my first book, Side Hustle and Flow, and really how people can have those parallel tracks for work and business. But obviously, the follow up, Shape Up, the only caveat or reason I call it out is because I realized within my own life that out of all those balls that we dropped, I dropped health first. And you should really drop health last. I think that people don't think about their health, of all the aspects of health, as being important. But it really is like being on an airplane where you have to put your mask on first. Because what happens is that you end up becoming not an asset, but a liability. And also some things you can't walk back. And at the end of your life, you're not going to be saying, bring me my work. Let me go look at my Grammys. You're going to care more about the relationships and the quality of life, you had and things like that. And so I just think it's a call out that like while you're hustling in all the different ways, don't forget to hustle health and hustle harder for health.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the new book and kind of your story there?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So obviously being a musician, I was around a lot of people for 20 years that drink pretty heavily and eat late and eat fast food and all the things. And so after years of just abuse of my body, when I was in China, they told me that I had fatty liver. About a year later from that in 2019, I had gained a considerable amount of weight and the doctors, they never said I was fat. They just said I was too short. And so essentially I had high blood pressure.
Kind of them.
Right? I had high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and type 2 diabetes. And I was like, well, tell me something good, And so I got on a bunch of medication and more medication and then had an allergic reaction during the pandemic. And I couldn't take some of the medication. And so I decided, Jim Rohn says that life doesn't get easier. You just have to become better. So I got a dietitian in 2023 and decided to lose 50 pounds in 5 months, which I did by November of 2023. And now fast forward to 2025, I've kept off the weight for a year and a half and got off all the medications and I reversed all those illnesses. And so I'm just now telling people that it is possible. And you kind of have to, for me at least, you have to kind of understand how Western philosophy and Western medicine works and how Eastern philosophy, Eastern medicine works, because a lot of times things that are the outward manifestation is just, talking about the inner symptoms. So I've been sober now for 5 years from alcohol.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And so you kind of clean up your life and, I don't push, any one way on anybody, but I just think, you want to live your best life, and living your best life, health is a part of that, and a big part of it, because you'll have the stamina. That's the thing. You'll have the strength to go further and faster when you're healthier. And so if I had known this earlier, it's not that the first book isn't great. It's amazing, but I can apply the first book so much better, even now, a year and a half later of being healthier, because I don't get as tired or as winded and stuff that I did before, especially as a vocalist, especially as a singer. I just didn't realize that, like, wow, the stamina you need to really be able to perform. Like the shows are still, effort and tiring in their own way, but not exacerbating as it was. And that's the thing, is like, no matter where you come from, you can start wherever that is, and you can transcend your genes and ethnicity and stuff like that. So the doctors weren't telling me that it was reversible, because they don't really think of it that way. And also, a lot of people don't do the work. But also, I just
Well,
didn't know
and
that.
our medical system isn't necessarily set up for prevention.
No, no, no. Yeah, but also,
Hmm.
like, just fallacies. Our doctors don't study nutrition, they don't study diet. That's not a part of their curriculum. They've spent very
Yeah,
little time on that, even though that's 90% of the problem. Most disease is covered by that. Understanding gut health and the microbiome and stuff. We're just kind of getting deeper into that, but they just don't
right.
do enough research. But yeah, the main thing is like, I don't harp on it, but it's just like, I wish I had known. I could have become healthier years before, saved a lot of pain, a lot of money, a lot of time. And you don't know. You don't know how much further you could have been. But I'll still be
Right.
further now. So I'm not worried about it. Like the time passes either way. But it's just, at least for me, like when I was in music school, nobody says you're a business. And then when I was living through life, like no one's like, your health is really important. Like that's number one. Like if you're gonna have three things to focus on, don't drop health. Because I think there's a natural inclination to be like, oh, I'll work on this later.
Well, that's definitely something that film folk we need in our lives as well, to focus on how it's so difficult working, when you're working on a TV show, you're working 12 to 15 hours a day, 5 days a week. You're being fed what's on set, and a lot of times it's a lot of junk food. Um, and so being able to make healthy choices, I struggle with that still whenever I'm on set. I personally quit drinking a year and 4 or 5 months ago now, and
Right.
that feels great. Like I'm making little changes as I go. I quit smoking. Like I am uh have always like thought that I was going to be boring. And it's like it's the people that you're around. Like you're around when you're around a lot of musicians, like everybody's drinking, everybody's having a good time. Like um it's hard to not feel like you don't fit in.
Yeah,
Or like,
definitely.
like I think that I also I'm Irish American, like drinking
Yeah.
is part of our heritage. But also it's a curse. Um so like knowing that I am not going to be the like fun drunk aunt anymore. But realizing I wasn't really that fun, and I have a lot more fun now not drinking, and I'm not judging anybody else for drinking, but personally for me it's been the best decision that I've made in a really long time.
Yeah. And we want our fun aunt around a long time. And that's what health
Right.
allows, that you get the longevity.
Yeah, so that's great advice to not let health be a like number 4 on the list.
Have you ever thought of writing a book?
Me? No. I don't know what I would write a book about.
Well, I think that's like, I think everyone can. I think everyone is knowledgeable on a subject and could write a book if they want to. I know that not everybody does, but there's a lot of people who want to write a book. There's also a lot of people who have a fear of public speaking. So as a Toastmaster, I just encourage people to do that. Even if you never use it, it's just still a skill to learn. What they focus on is effective communication. So for years,
Mm,
everyone thinks that talking is communication. Talking is really only half. Real communication to be effective is sending and receiving a signal. And if you can't do both, like, a lot of times people think they're having dialogue, but they're really having just like really fast monologues. It's like if I'm just
mm,
talking and thinking about what I want to say, and then you're talking and thinking about what you want to say, and neither one's actually listening to each other actively, not passively, then yeah, their communication is not effective. So like it's like even if we're both speaking English, but like we can't understand each other on the humanistic level or whatever it is, I'm like it is not effective. Like we are throwing words out there and seeing what sticks, and nothing is sticking. So
yeah.
so it allows you to be able to learn that. And then books or podcasts, it's just ways of organizing your thoughts and ideas. So I think the mediums are all out there. So when I was writing the book, I studied Robert McKee, who does the whole story seminars and wrote the book Story. But basically every medium has a different way of telling that story. So TV versus film versus books, they're just
Yeah.
ways of getting the information out there. So not everybody will write a book, but I think, get your ideas and your dreams out there, whatever media works for you. But I think everybody has a creative outlet. And like I said, it gets to do for fun. Like there are people who only know enough guitar to be the cool guy at a party. They're not trying to be on stage, and that's okay.
Yeah, I think that's me.
Good enough. Good
I
enough.
don't really need to be on stage. Yeah, I've always thought of I've always wanted to do improv and the Moth uh story hour. I've always thought that that would be a cool program to be a part of, to see, because I always think I don't necessarily have a story, but everyone has a story. Everyone can get up and come up with something on any topic. And then I think it would help me with, I don't mind public speaking. I just haven't had a reason to do it in a really long time. But yeah, you got me thinking. You definitely have the thoughts, the juices flowing.
Awesome. Well, that's why I just, we just plant those seeds. And like I said, it's not whatever. It doesn't have to be great. If you want to do the moth, you just do that on the local level or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because everyone has a story. I told a story years ago about my mom. It's called My Mom Is No Betty Crocker. And it's like she was a terrible cook and she always burned her house down several times. And people loved it. People loved it because it's a crazy story. And it's definitely like, embellished. But it's based on the truth. And the whole point of it, or the crux of it, was, she was not the world's best cook, but she is the world's best mom to me.
Yeah.
And the humanistic side of it, people get it because it's like when Bill Withers was learning music after 30, his first album, he's at the construction site with his little lunch pail. Like, he was like a real man, just a regular person. But when he got signed for his record deal at Sussex Records, a guy, Clarence Avant, who signed Six Toe, who they did that huge documentary on, where he was like famous in Africa. He didn't know. I can't remember the movie now, but Searching for Sugar Man.
Yes.
But when Bill Withers was signed by this guy, he wrote this song, Grandma's Hands, plays it for him. And the guy was like, I never heard a song about a grandma, but we all got one signed. And that's the thing. That's the power of a story. The power is that, yeah, that was not significant, but it became significant. Like, the story about my mom was interesting because everybody had a mom. Like, everybody got it.
Right.
We get it. And so it's like, these stories connect us on a human level, that it's a shared experience, that we're all on this rock together, that we're under the same stars that our ancestors were under hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And so we're not that different. The technology and mediums change, like music is now digital and you get to be vinyl and on cassette, but people still love music and people still gravitate it in the ways they do. And they will still gravitate to you in all the mediums that you choose to do that. But you can expand your universe and expand into other mediums, even if you don't think that you have necessarily a story. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. When the story is ready, it'll be there for you, when you're ready to tell it.
I love that. Cliff Beach, thank you for taking so much time to chat with me today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, I love it. Anytime. I'm happy to chat and chat again. It's all about getting our ideas out there, spreading the ideas that truly matter, and that, that people matter. You're a person and you matter. And if we do that, so if we do that, like if we just permeate from ourselves that goodness out, and other people are doing that, then the world will be better. I think if everyone focused more on themselves and personal development, we would be in a much better situation as a society.
Yeah, I agree. Cliff, where can we find you?
You can find me on socials at Cliff Beach Music everywhere. You can also find me on my website, sidehustleandflow.net. I have a blog. We put out 5 articles every week, so they're free. Check it out. All the books are online on Amazon, Audible, Apple Books, all the streaming platforms, both Side Hustle and Flow, and Side Hustle and Flow Shape Up. And then all the music under Cliff Beach on all streaming platforms. So 13, 14, 15 records. Go enjoy singles, records, whatever it is. Hopefully it adds a little more happiness and excitement and keeps you moving, which is our main goal.
Yeah, you can't listen to a Cliff Beach song or record without smiling and moving. So highly recommend. I'll put all those links in the show notes for everybody to be able to find you easily and quickly. And thanks, man. Thanks for being on The Company Move.
Awesome. And thanks for using my phone.
Thanks for letting me.
No worries. Take care. We'll talk to you.
Company Move is produced by me, Rennie Pollack, and is produced and edited by Robin Lavecchio. Special thanks to Selena Persiani-Shell for designing our graphics. Our theme music was written by Cliff Beach and performed by Cliff Beach and Alex Nestor. You can follow Cliff on Spotify or check out his website at cliffbeachmusic.com. Our interstitial music was composed and performed by Gabe Rosen. Do you have questions, suggestions, or want to be a guest? You can email us at companymovepod@gmail.com. We're moving away from Meta, so no more Insta, but follow us on Blue Sky by searching for Company Move Pod. Please follow and rate us on whatever platform you listen to us on. And if you like us, please leave us a review. It helps for listeners to find us. That's a wrap for this week. Thanks for listening. Come on back next week for a new episode of The Company Move.